Alright you guys, what's up and welcome back to the 98 English course. In today's recording we're going to be talking about Unit 3, Work and Business. So let's hop right in. Obviously we start with the key vocabulary and then we move on to the listening. Okay? Go after me. Achievement, advertisement, agriculture, applicant, application, background, bank, bank clerk, boring, builder, bus, bus driver, cooperative, comfortable, computer, confident, construction, employ, employee, employer, employment, explanation, factory, farm, farmer, finance, friendly, government, hobby, imaginative, independent, interest, interview, kind, leisure, manager, manual worker, manufacturing, office worker, organized, patient, personality, professional, punctual, responsibility, retail, salary, C, shop, shop assistant, smart, trainee, transport. Okay, you guys? Now, let's move on to the listening. And what do we have here? Looks like we have 8 pictures, okay? And here we have different people, obviously, in different work conditions and in different places doing very different jobs, okay? So, let's actually have a listen here on exercise A. So we're going to have examples such as probably a bank, finance, construction, farm, things of that nature. Let's have a listen.
28. Unit 3. Work and Business. Lesson 1. Listening. Exercise A. Listen and point.
Bank,
Builder,
Factory,
farm,
shop,
bus,
sea,
shop assistant,
farmer.
bus driver.
Do you want to work in a shop?
Would you like to be a farmer?
Are you going to work for the government?
He loves the sea. He's a lifeguard.
He's a machine operator in a factory.
She's working in a bank at the moment.
Every summer I work on my uncle's farm.
I don't want to work outside, for example, on a building site.
Alright, so the audio started with obviously different places where different work can be done. So for example, we have bank, builder, factory, farm, bus, sea, for example, bus driver, and farmer. Okay? And then we had some questions. So for example, do you want to work in a shop? Would you like to be a farmer? So obviously a farmer works in a farm. Okay? Are you going to work for the government? Okay? He loves the sea. He is a lifeguard. Obviously a lifeguard is someone that works very close to the sea or a swimming pool. Okay? He's a machine operator in a factory. Okay, so this guy or this fellow right here, he is obviously operating a machine, so he works in a factory. She works in a bank at the moment. Okay, so she's probably an accountant or many different positions in a bank. Okay, so let's actually move on now to exercise B. Here we have listen and match the employment sectors and the photographs. Okay, so we're gonna be here. We have the same pictures, okay, but we're gonna have to label them, obviously with agriculture, construction, finance, on the number in which we hear them, okay? You guys will get the idea once we start this. Here we go.
29. Exercise B. Listen and match the employment sectors and the photographs.
She works in a bank. She's in finance.
Okay, so she works in a bank. We can tell that this is a bank and finance. Obviously, things related to money. So 1 will be finance, okay?
They are builders. They're in the construction sector.
Okay, so they are builders, obviously, number 2. And they are in the construction sector. So here we have construction, the word. So construction will be number 2.
He works on a machine in a large factory. He's in manufacturing.
Okay, so he works on a large machine in a factory. So he's manufacturing. So 3 will be manufacturing.
He grows crops and raises animals on a small farm. He's in agriculture.
Okay, he grows crops on a small farm, probably a farmer, and he is in agriculture. So agriculture will be number 4.
He's a lifeguard on the beach. He's in the leisure industry.
He is in the leisure industry. Obviously, depending on the pronunciation, you can say leisure or ledger. Both are correct. Okay, so here we have lifeguard in the leisure industry. So number 5.
She's a minister. She's a very important person in government.
Okay, obviously she's a minister and someone that works in the ministry. Any ministry is an important person. So number 6 will be government.
He's a bus driver. He works in the transport sector.
Transport sector. Here we go. So where are we at? Number 7, because he's a bus driver and he's working in the transport sector.
She's a shop assistant. She's in retail.
She is a shop assistant, so she works in retail. So, right? So here you guys go. 4, 2, 1, 6, 5, 3, 8, 7. Okay? Pretty easy stuff so far. Now let's move on. Okay. Here we have exercise C. Let me actually open this up. Okay. So what do we have? We have listened to part of a lecture about employment in the UK, and then we're going to have to complete table 1. Okay, so here's what I want you guys, because this is actually quite long, so at around 3 minutes. So we're going to only play it once, alright? And what I want you to focus on, you're going to hear a lot of information. So make sure you have like a note or this right here. You're going to hear a lot of talk about different kinds of jobs and their percentages, okay? Obviously the percentage of people or the employment rates in those jobs, okay? So focus on these information right here, okay? Here we go.
30. Exercise C. Listen to part of a lecture about employment in the UK. Complete Table 1.
I'm going to talk to you today about employment sectors. Perhaps you are thinking already about work after university. Which sector do you want to work in? I'm going to tell you about employment sectors in the UK. Then I'm going to ask you to do some research into employment sectors in your country. Okay, so first, where do most people work in the UK? According to a survey by Labour Market Trends in June 2004, most people in the UK work in the government sector. Does that seem strange? Remember, most doctors and nurses work for the government. Most teachers in schools, colleges and universities work for the government. And of course, there are many clerks and typists in local government offices. 28% of people in the UK work for the government in one way or another.
Okay, so let me actually pause this for a second here. So as you can see, this is what it means to work for the government. So obviously this is the transport industry, for example. Here we have agriculture, here we have manufacturing, okay? So this is the most suitable picture, or pictures I should say, that represents working for the government. And she said, if you guys were paying attention, that 28% of the of employment in the UK, people work for government. Okay? Now let's move on.
28%. In second place in the survey, we have the leisure and retail industries. Leisure and retail. Leisure means hotels and holiday travel. Retail means shops, of course, and supermarkets. Britain is a popular holiday destination, and 20% of people in Britain work in hotels, restaurants, and shops.
Okay, so let me pause it here. So obviously UK is a popular place for tourists as well. So here we have the leisure industry, for example. So we have shops, obviously fashion shops, restaurants, that sort of thing. And here we have the picture of a swimming pool, obviously representing, you know, swimming and obviously going to the sea and things of that nature. So she said there's about 20%, so 20% of the population works in the leisure sector, okay?
Finance is in third place. 16% of people, that's 1/6, work in banks, insurance companies, etc.
Okay, so here we have obviously pictures of money and coins. So finance is the third biggest sector that people work in the UK at around 16%, okay? 1/6, 16%. So 16% of people work in either banks, insurance companies, and obviously places of that nature, okay?
So that's government first, 28%, leisure and retail second with 20%, and finance third on 16%. What's fourth? Agriculture, perhaps? No, not nowadays. At one time, most people in Britain worked on a farm, but now only 1% are in agriculture.
Okay, so here we have pictures of agriculture, right? So once upon a time in the UK, agriculture was really popular, but nowadays, since obviously the world is constantly changing and advancing better or getting better and better every decade, it's now at around 1%, okay? So that's quite low actually.
Manufacturing is not very important now either, but still 15% work in that sector.
Okay, so she said that manufacturing is really not that important in the UK currently. So we know that things can change and probably will change in the future, obviously depending on the country and other factors. But for now, around 15% of the population still works in that sector.
After manufacturing, we have transport at 7% and
Transport, simple one, 7%. Not much needed to talk about here.
construction at 6%.
And construction right below it at 6%. Okay, so this is the picture for construction, a shovel and a helmet.
Other industries like fishing make up the remaining 7%.
Okay, so now with these numbers we have around 7% remaining, and these are called other. So for example, fishing and other job sectors that are not really noticeable, so around 7%. So now we get a total of 100% for all of these different job sectors.
So, from fourth down, we have manufacturing on 15%, transport 7%, construction 6%, and agriculture just 1%. Have a look at those figures for a few minutes. Do you think they are similar in your country?
Alright, pretty simple stuff so far. That was actually a really good exercise, you guys. Now, let's move on. What do we have here? Here we have, look at the photographs of different types of workers. Okay, so now we're gonna look at different types of workers And you guys are going to tell me, obviously I'm going to be looking at the pictures, what are these workers or different types of workers called, because each one has a different name, okay? So let's go.
31. Exercise D1. Listen and check.
A. Cleaners, builders and farm workers are manual workers.
B.
People in charge of companies or offices are managers.
C.
Secretaries, typists and clerks are office workers.
D.
Doctors, lawyers and teachers are professionals.
Okay, and let me actually just elaborate a little bit here on these pictures. So why do we call cleaners and manufacturing workers and farmers manual workers? And that's because they do things manually. It comes from the word manually. So it just makes sense to call them manual workers. Okay, and here we have B, we have managers. Why do we call these people managers? And that's because they manage places such as businesses, shops, restaurants, offices, things of that nature. They manage the place, what happens, what goes in and out. They do the stuff that needs to be done by a manager, and hence why they're called managers. Okay, and then C, we have office workers. Who are office workers? Anybody can be an office worker. Okay, so we have an accountant, a typist, a programmer, a secretary. Okay, so all of these people work in an office. Mind you, by the way, managers can also work a lot of the time in offices, but these guys spend most of their time in an office. Okay, so hence why they're called office workers. And finally, we have professionals. So why are these people called professionals exactly? And I think part of the reason is obviously the prestige of being, for example, a surgeon or a doctor or even a lawyer, a judge, for example. But I think also another big part of it is the fact that they take so many years out of their lives to study for their said profession. So for example, you can't just be a doctor on 2 years of university, for example, or perhaps a surgeon. A surgeon takes years upon years to perfect his skill in order to be successful. You know what I mean? Hence why they're called professionals. Same thing with a judge, for example. He spends many years as a lawyer first. Okay? Now you guys get the idea. So now that you guys know a little bit about different workers and what their names are, let's actually listen to the next part of the talk, and let's hear what the speaker says about each type of job. Okay, so we're gonna be talking. We have different traits for different people that do different jobs. So for example, we have manager, professional, office worker, and manual worker, and we have some words here. So boring, comfortable, easy, hard, high salaries, interesting. All these traits can be, found in different places of work. Okay, so let's have a listen.
32. Exercise D2. Listen to the next part of the talk. What does the speaker say about each type of job?
Okay, we have heard about employment sectors. Now let's look at another important point about jobs. There are different kinds of jobs. What kind of job do you want to do? Are you going to be a manager? Managers often have interesting jobs, but they work long hours and they have a lot of responsibility. Or do you want to be a professional, like a doctor or a lawyer or a teacher? Professionals earn high salaries in most countries, but you must do many years of study. What about office work? Do you want to be an office worker? Some people think office jobs are boring, but they are often quite easy, and you work in comfortable conditions. Finally, perhaps you would like to be a manual worker. Perhaps you want to work with your hands. Manual work is usually hard, but some people like working outside, and some people like making things. What kind of worker do you want to be?
Alright, so now let's solve, or I should say do the table here. So we have manager. Let's actually start with that. And what do you guys think are the traits of being a manager? And based on what we just heard, she said that managers have quite an interesting job. So I'll say it's an interesting job, okay? However, managers can really have long hours of work, like not your average 7 to 8 hours, even more sometimes, okay? And that brings me to my next point, responsibility, you guys. Managers have so much responsibility on their hands. A business could come crashing down if a manager is not careful about what he's doing, or if he's, doing things wrongly, okay? So managers have a lot of responsibility, long hours. However, their work can be quite interesting, depends on how you look at it, okay? Now, let's move on to professional workers. And it's a known fact that professionals make high salaries. Everybody knows that a surgeon makes so much money. However, you must, and notice how she said must, you must complete years upon years of study, okay? Like, trust me, you're not gonna be a surgeon at 22 years old. That's not how it works. You're gonna take time. You're gonna start your career when you're in your 30s if you're a professional, okay? So, years of study is needed, and obviously you get high salaries. Now, let's move to an office worker, and this is personally, my favorite, and I'd say it's for a lot of people as well, because it offers kind of a nice combo between things. So it can definitely be boring, depends on how you look at it, and if you're someone that's an extrovert, so someone that likes going out, that likes meeting people, that likes talking to people, this job, or this job type, I should say, will probably be quite boring for someone like you, sitting for 7 hours a day on a desk, basically just staring at a screen. This can be really boring, right? However, work or not, you're basically in relatively, or not really, it's relatively easy, right? That's what I'm trying to say. So the work itself is really not that hard compared to, like, for example, a surgeon that has to do heart surgery every 2 days, right? So your job is nowhere near as tough. You get the idea? And you're working in comfortable conditions, so you have your own office for the most part. I know some people work in cubicles, but for the most part, you have your own office, you have your own air conditioner, you're having fun, cup of coffee, things are looking good, okay? Now, let's go and move on to manual worker. And I think a lot of people don't like being a manual worker. Some people are either brought into it because, his or her whole family were doing it like so, or he simply likes to work with his hands, because in my personal opinion, this is the hardest type of work. Because, so I'd say it's hard, right? And based on the audio, it is hard, right? And let me tell you this, a lot of people, or not a lot of people, some people like to make their own things. So for example, that enjoyment you get when you fix something on your own without having to call the plumber or the carpenter? Yeah, that's the feeling that a lot of manual workers like to do. The fact that you can grow a tree or your own crops and have your own tomatoes, for example, that's a really good feeling. So some people like that, so making things. And some people also like working outside. Some people hate the idea of being stuck in an office all day, every day, five days a week for, years at a time. Okay? So outside here. Okay, you guys? So after you've seen the differences between each one, what do you guys think is the best one for you personally? And this answer will be obviously based on you and your personality, okay, and what you can tolerate in terms of boredom and what you should sacrifice, because there's always sacrifice when choosing your field or whatever you want to do for work, right? You're always gonna have to sacrifice something for something else. You know what I mean? For me, obviously, I'm the type of person that enjoy. I can handle sitting for long periods of time doing office work, but I do think that over time it may get repetitive very quickly. So you're gonna have to find a trade-off or a job that balances the two. I know a lot of people love the professional work, and actually a lot of people or a lot of teenagers are willing to put in the years of study, except when they realize in their 5th year that they hate being a doctor and then their life is about to fall apart. But I'm just kidding, by the way. This is sarcasm. Okay? So you have managers, obviously, and a lot of office workers become managers over time. That's what you guys don't know. So a lot of people can become managers. It's not, one type of job and it's said and done. Okay? Let me know, or let your friends know and your classmates know what your preferred work style is. And now let's move on. So what do we have? Okay, so here we have exercise E, and you guys, this is actually a pie chart. I know you guys know this. We talked about this before in the 97 course, right? Predict the numbers and percentages, right? So listen to the last part of the talk, right? So here we have a table, right? We have, we're gonna complete it, okay? So it's a U.S. employment by type of worker, obviously on August 2010. And here we have the number of people in millions. So if I write 1 here, or 7 or 8 or 20, it means 20 million, so in millions, right? And then beside it is its percentage based on 100% percentage. Okay, you guys? Pretty simple stuff. And this is obviously based on 120 million people. So the numbers here should all correlate to 120 million in the end. All right? So let's have a listen.
33. Exercise E2. Listen to the last part of the talk.
How easy is it to get each type of job? Well, the world is changing. At one time, nearly everyone was a manual worker. But what about today? It is difficult to get accurate figures for different kinds of jobs, but I have some information from the United States. In the United States, there are about 120 million people with a job. 50 million are manual workers. 50 million, that's about 42% of the workforce.
Okay, so manual workers in the US, obviously based on 120 million people working, we have 50 million of those in manual work, right? And that's about 42%, right? So 42 means, yeah, that's 42% of the whole workforce in manual work, okay?
In second place, we have office workers. There are about 35 million office workers, which is 29% of the workforce.
Okay, so second we have office work, and office workers come at around 35 million, right? And around 29%. Okay, so 29% of the workforce in the United States is office workers or office workers.
Next, we have professionals. They account for 22 million jobs, which is 18%.
Okay, we have, so before last, we have professionals. And professionals are at around 22 million. And what is that? Around 18, right? So yeah, 18% of the workforce are professionals. Okay?
Finally, there are managers. There are 13 million managers in the USA. That's 11% of the total workforce.
Okay, and finally, we have managers. So managers come at around 13 million, and percentage is 11. So 11% of the workforce are managers. Now, let's check. Do we have anything else? Okay, nothing. So now, take a look at this pie chart, you guys. Now, I talked about this before, but let me say it one more time. When I'm looking at a pie chart, I want to try my best to look at the biggest one first. Okay? Okay, so here, for example, I want to write these 4 types of workers onto the pie chart. So I have 4, so blue, red, green, and purple, right? I want to put each one based on how big the color is. So for example, I have the color blue here, and it's the first one here. And here we have the first, or not the first, I should say, the biggest, right? So we have 50 million people working as manual workers, right? And that's about 42%. So it only makes sense for me to say that the blue, or the color blue, represents manual workers, okay? So manual workers. Okay, you guys? So the color blue has to be manual workers, not because it's first, but because it's the biggest in terms of numbers. Okay, coming in second are office workers. They are at around 35 million and 29%. So based on these numbers, they come in second. So the red goes to actually, hold on. You see, I made a mistake myself here. Actually, red is not for office workers, but for professionals. You want to know why? Because if you take a look, you can't just make the same mistake I just did. You got to take a look and see the bigger color. So here I can clearly see that green is a little bit bigger than red and purple. So based on that, I can say that green is office workers. Okay? Or is for office workers. So office workers. Okay? But what is red for? Red is actually for professionals, because professionals come right under office workers at around 22 million people and around 18% of the workforce. Okay? So red is for professionals. Professionals. Oh, let me actually go back. Okay? And finally, we have purple, and purple is for the last type of workers, and that is managers at around 13 million and at around 11% of the workforce. So the color purple is for managers. Okay, you guys? And that is how you label and read a pie chart. Okay, so now looking at it, blue, manual workers, here we have it, take a look. Professionals, red. Office workers, green. Managers, purple. Okay, you guys? Pretty simple stuff. Now let's move on. Alright, you guys, so now moving on to lesson 2, speaking. Here we have 8 pictures, just like the previous section on the listening. We have 8 pictures, again, different people doing different kinds of jobs that have different names. Okay? So here, for example, we have someone working in the agriculture industry, right? He's probably a farmer, okay? Or a fruit picker, for example. Here we have the manufacturing industry, all right? So let's actually take a look at exercise A here. Here we have name the employment sectors, right? Okay, so I already named 2. We're going to continue with them. And then we have name some jobs in each sector. Okay, so like I said, for example, we're going to name the job sector. So number 1, we have agriculture, obviously. And some examples of work can be farmer, farm worker, and fruit picker. Okay, and then we have number 2. Obviously, that is the manufacturing sector. And examples on that include engineer, factory worker, factory manager. Right? And then we have number 3. This looks like finance, right? So examples include bank clerk, accountant, bank manager, and etc. Okay? And then we have number 4. This is obviously construction. We can say builder, carpenter, painter, electrician. Okay? And then we have number 5, and this looks like leisure, you guys. So, for example, sports trainer, hotel receptionist, waiter. Okay? And then we have number 6. What is this? Oh, this looks like retail. So I can say probably shop assistant, shop manager, checkout operator, and for example, shelf stacker, right? And then we have 7. And this, you guys remember when in the previous section, in the listening, we talked about how in most countries a lot of doctors and engineers and such work for the government, right? So for this, I can probably say government. I can say doctor, nurse, teacher, and politician, right? And finally, we have 8, and this looks like transport. So we can say bus driver, train driver, and so on, okay? Car driver, Uber driver, all of these are correct. Now, let's actually move on to this because I'm actually really excited about this. So look at the flow chart. You guys remember the charts, pie chart, bar chart, and flow chart. It gives advice on career planning. Now, let me elaborate actually before we have a listen here to Paul and Jane. So this is a flow chart. You can see different places, and looking at it from afar, you probably wouldn't understand what the hell's going on. But once you take a closer look, you'll understand that with this chart, everything is connected based on questions. So the participant usually answers some questions, obviously based on the flow chart, right? And based on his answers, he can get the best outcome for him, or in this case, career, right? So let's now take a listen to Paul and Jane. Okay, and after that, we're going to answer which sector is good for Paul. Here we go. Have a listen.
35. Exercise B. Listen to Paul and Jane. Which sector is good for Paul?
What kind of job would you like to do after college, Paul?
I don't know, really.
There's a flowchart in this magazine. It helps you choose an employment sector.
Show me.
No, I want to test it. I'll ask you some questions, then I'll tell you a good sector for you.
Right.
First question. Would you like to work inside?
Yes.
Okay. Second question. Would you like to meet new people?
What? In my job?
Yes.
Yes, I would.
Right. Third question. Would you like to travel?
Yes. Definitely.
Okay. It says the leisure industry or the transport industry. Do you agree with that?
I'm not sure about the transport industry, but I'd like to work in the leisure industry.
Okay, you guys, so now that you kind of have an idea of how a flowchart works, let's try it one more time, right? So here you go. You have the first question, work inside. And what does work inside mean? Basically, it means working in an office, right? In a company, inside a building. Or work inside means working from home as well, okay? So basically, not working on the streets or on a farm or doing any handwork, right? So work inside, if you answer yes to that, then agriculture and construction is not for you, right? Meet new people. Oh, if you say yes to that, then manufacturing and finance is not for you, because for a lot of manufacturing and finance, you basically do the same thing, right? For manufacturing, you're probably just focusing on your machine, doing the same thing over and over again, right? Same thing with finance, but can be a little bit different, right? So for finance, depending on your position in a bank, for example, you're meeting new people, but you're not really meeting them as friends, but rather customers, if you know what I mean. Like, for example, retail. You get what I mean? So also travel. Who doesn't want to travel? So if you say yes to that, then retail and government work is not for you, because you never see a surgeon traveling the world to do his job, right? He just sits in a hospital and does his job from there. So if you answer yes to all of these questions, you get the leisure industry and transport. And transport doesn't necessarily just mean, you know, an Uber driver, for example. No, I'm talking about like a bus driver that drives from a city to a city. All of these can help you meet new people, you know, travel different cities. And sometimes, you know, when you get high rating with these new apps coming out, you can even travel to other places to work for a big company such as Uber, for example, right? So depending on your answer, that's basically how you use a flowchart. Depending on your answer, a simple yes or no can determine which outcome or answer comes out for you. In this case, a career plan. Okay? Pretty simple stuff, you guys. Now, what else do we have? we have make 3 questions. We already did that. These are the 3 questions, okay? So we cannot change questions or bring questions from our own into an already made flowchart, okay? So you should do it on your own, but have different outcomes, or not different outcomes. You should use your own honest answers, okay? Which sector is good for you? Do you agree with the results of the flowchart? I agree with the results and how they're made. I actually quite like it. And which sector is good for you? I'd probably say something maybe along the lines of finance. I think finance is a good kind of middle ground between not working outside and also not having to deal with so much people that you're annoyed constantly. You know what I mean? So yeah. Now let's move on. What do we have here? Exercise C. Listen to the introduction to a talk at the training day. What is the trainer going to talk about? Okay. So let me open this right here. So we have some points, obviously, and one of them is going to be talked about after the introduction on this audio right here. So we're going to take the correct one, okay? Here we go. Have a listen.
36. Exercise C. Listen to the introduction to a talk at the training day. What is the trainer going to talk about? Tick one subject.
In this session, we are talking about job interviews. Sometimes people do badly in job interviews because they don't prepare. So, in this session, I'm going to talk about preparing for a job interview. You can prepare in many ways, but I'm only going to talk about one way. In a job interview, the interviewer often starts with, "Tell me about yourself." We call this a presentation. You must speak for 1 or 2 minutes. You must prepare for this presentation. So that's the subject for this session.
Alright, so he talked a little bit about, job interviews in this introduction right here. He talked very briefly about job interviews and what you must do, and how usually job interviews start with the question, "Tell me about yourself," and a lot of people seem to get confused, and they should be saying stuff about themselves for 1 or 2 minutes. I mean, a lot of people say that you don't know the value of 1 minute until you work out, but I beg to differ. I think during an interview, it's probably like a minute feels like an hour. Anyway, so he talked about definitely not choosing a career, starting your first job, nope, writing your resume, although that is a part of the process, it's not what he was talking about. Preparing your presentation. This is the one that we're looking for right here. He said being able to present yourself as soon as that question arises. So the answer is preparing your presentation. Okay? Now let's move on to exercise D. Listen to the next part of the talk. Okay, so we're going to have a continuation now after the introduction. Okay? What can you talk about in your presentation? Number the areas that the trainer mentions. Okay, so now he's going to get into a little bit more detail of what should you say in your presentation, because a lot of people, they don't know what to say. They mess it up when asked a simple question, what do you, or tell me about yourself, for example, okay? So, achievements, hobbies, background, interests, career plans, personality, and education. Okay, so we're going to number these. So he's going to be talking about them, and we're going to be numbering these. Right, here we go.
37. Exercise D. Listen to the next part of the talk.
Okay, so let's look at some areas for your presentation. Firstly, you can talk about your background. This means your family and your hometown or city. Maybe your nationality too.
Okay, let me pause it for a second here. So number 1 will be background. So you usually start your answer with talking about your background. So you can talk about your family for a bit, hometown, nationality, but make sure it's not excessive. Okay?
Next, talk about your education. Tell the interviewers about your school and your university. Tell the interviewers about your subjects. Why did you choose your subjects? Which exams did you pass?
Okay, I'm going to pause it again here. So number 2 will be education. And the reason for that is that you got to let whoever's going to hire you or whoever's interviewing you, you got to tell them your education. What do you have? Do you have a high school diploma? Do you have a bachelor's degree, for example? Do you have any extra tests or exams that you have under your belt? IELTS, perhaps? Things of that nature, okay? So your education is very important.
Thirdly, talk about any achievements. Maybe you learnt to play the piano, or maybe you were captain of the football team. Finally,
Okay, I'm going to pause it right here before he keeps going. So the third point that you can talk about is your achievements. You can talk about really big achievements, obviously if you've achieved them, or you can, if you're just, if you're a 22-year-old still looking for a job, you can start with some small stuff. So for example, learning to play the guitar. It's not an easy instrument, right? Simple things like, for example, figuring out how to edit a video, figuring out how to do this, how to do that, basically any achievement of your own. Being able to travel, for example, okay? So talk about your achievements, and also don't make it excessive, okay? So like the background, just keep it to a minimum, right? But I don't want you to go into an interview, being handicapped. Talk like you're talking with your friends, right? Just make it simple.
talk about your future career plans. What would you like to do in the future? Why?
Alright, so finally, the last one, where is it? So career plans, okay, so number 4. And actually, I wanted to talk just a little bit in more detail about career plans. So what he means here is you can talk about, obviously, what do you want to do if after you get hired. Like, the question usually comes like this. The interviewer says, where do you see yourself in 5 years, right? This is just off the top of my head. And you gotta answer that, and please, don't ever answer with, I want to be making more money, right? That's a question, that's basically a recipe for disaster. I know that a lot of people go get jobs for money. It's a part of life. Money motivates people, I get it. But you don't want to make it obvious that you only care about the money. Even if that's the only thing you care about. I understand, look, money's good, but you gotta do your homework before showing up, So say stuff along the lines of maybe, I like the field and I'd like to strive in it, for example. I'd like to take my career to the next step by, doing more stuff, maybe being an investor later in life, maybe having a family. You know what I mean? But don't go completely off topic. Try to stay on track with your career. Okay, you guys? Pretty simple stuff. And I actually really like this audio right here. So now, let's move on. What else do we have? Okay. Here we have exercise E. Look at some sentences from a presentation. Okay. Let's open this. Okay, so here we have some sentences, right? And based on these sentences, we're gonna label them with each sector. So we have background, achievements, career plans, and education. Okay? Let's have a listen and then we'll mark them together.
38. Exercise E2. Listen and check.
I have a certificate in first aid.
I have 2 brothers and 1 sister.
I passed the secondary certificate with 83%.
I want to work in the leisure industry.
I was head girl at my secondary school.
I went to secondary school in Rome.
I'd like to be a manager.
I'm from Recife in northern Brazil.
Alright, you guys. So now let me elaborate a little bit more on what each sector here is gonna, or which of these information goes with what sector. So first one, I have a certificate in first aid. What do you guys think this one is? I have a certificate in first aid. That's correct. It's an achievement, right? So we have achievements, certificate in first aid. Number 2, I have 2 brothers and 1 sister. This is really simple background. We're talking about family, so background. C, I passed the secondary certificate with 83%, right? And this is going to be education. You're talking about your certificate, right? I want to work in the leisure industry, right? And this is going to be a career plan, right? So you're still not working in the leisure industry, but you want to, right? I was head girl at my secondary school. That's an achievement, right? So you're happy that I was head girl at my secondary school. I went to secondary school in Rome. You're talking about education here, right? I went to secondary school in Rome. I'd like to be a manager. Obviously, a career plan as well. And finally, I'm from Recife in northern Brazil. So this is background. You're talking about yourself and your background. Okay, guys? Pretty simple stuff. Anything else? Let's see what we have here. We have the skills check right here, giving a presentation in an interview. And giving a presentation in an interview is obviously going to be quite different from giving a normal presentation at work or something else. So you often have to give a presentation at job interviews. So what do you do to prepare for that, right? So obviously, preparing for any presentation, you got to make notes, right? Whether on your laptop, on your phone, on a piece of paper, you got to make notes, right? You got to write out, a brief, rough copy of your presentation, and you got to practice it and, get it better over time or make it better over time, right? And here's you guys, I actually told you guys to do this back in the 97 course. Record it and play it back. Or ask your friends for comments. So what does he mean by this? All of us have phones nowadays, you guys. Open the recorder and start talking, right? So have the questions in front of you, right, on a piece of paper, on a screen, whatever, and start answering each question as if you're in an interview, right? Or, an even better idea, get a friend, someone who's serious, obviously, or a family member, and start practicing the interview with them. This is just like being in an interview in a place or in a company or applying for a good high-paying job. You get what I mean? So practice, 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 and soon enough you'll see yourself getting better at it without even noticing. And finally, ask your friends for comments and tips, okay? So you can ask your family members or friends that have gone through similar experiences, like, hey, what did I do wrong? What do you think of this answer? What do you think of my tone? What do you think of my smile? What do you think of my tie? These simple comments can make a difference. They can make or break you. Okay, you guys? Pretty simple stuff. Now let's move on. Alright, you guys, now let's move on to lesson 3, vocabulary and pronunciation. Here we have 4 pictures that I'm guessing describe the process of getting a new job or applying for a new job. So here we have exercise A. Look at the photographs above. They show the stages of getting a job. Match the items in the box with the photographs. Okay, so we have some words in the box. We have a resume, an application letter, a job advertisement, and finally a job interview. And can you guys tell me what is number 1 exactly? That's correct. It's a job interview, or not a job interview, it's a job advertisement, basically an ad. Okay? And what is the second one? That's correct. It's someone's resume, or more like a CV, okay? So you guys know what a CV is, a resume that you use to apply for jobs. And then what is this? That's right, that's an application letter. And we'll talk more about these in a second. We'll elaborate more on them as we go, okay? And finally we have number 4, obviously a job interview here. So a job advertisement, a resume, an application letter, and finally a job interview. These are basically the order of steps that most people take to get a new job. Okay, you guys? Now, let's move on. What do we have here? We have, look at the conversations below. Complete each conversation. Write 1 word in each space. Okay? And then, so we're gonna listen to the audio first. Alright? I'll be pausing the audio after each paragraph. So once it's done, I'll pause it and we'll do it together, and we'll do it 3 more times. Okay? So here we go. Have a listen.
40. Exercise B2. Listen and check.
1.
Did you see this job advertisement?
No, I didn't. What's it for?
Superstore is looking for a trainee manager.
Are you going to apply?
Yes, I think so.
Alright, so that was number 1. So A said, dash, you see this job advertisement, obviously a question mark, so we're going to write did. So, did you see this job advertisement? B answers, no, I didn't, or no, I did not. So, didn't, what's it for? Obviously a store named Superstore, dash, for a trainee, looking for a trainee manager. So, Superstore is looking for a trainee manager. And then B, we have dash, you going to apply? Asking a question, and we're going to say, are you going to apply? A answers, yes, I think so. So yes, I think so. Okay? Easy stuff so far. Let's keep going.
2.
Can you help me with my job application?
Sure. What's the problem?
They want my resume and a covering letter. What do I put in the letter?
Tell them about yourself. Then tell them the reasons that you are applying for the job.
Okay, that was number 2. So here we have A says, dash, you help me with my job application. So I'll say, can you help me with my job application? B, sure, what the problem? So we'll probably say, what is the problem? Okay, or what's the problem? Using an apostrophe S. Both are correct. They want my resume and a covering letter. What do I put in the letter? That's what she said. So they want my resume and a covering letter. What do I put in the letter? B answers by saying, I think it was tell them, or them is already written. So tell them about yourself, then tell them the reasons that you are applying for the job. Okay, you guys?
3.
Thank you for coming to the interview.
Thank you for inviting me.
Let's start with some background information.
Certainly.
Tell me about yourself.
Alright, so number 3, thank you for coming. What's that? That's correct. Thank you for coming to the interview. Then A says, thank you for inviting me. C, let's start. What did she say? Let's start with some background information. A answers, certainly, and the great question that everybody fails at apparently, tell me about yourself. I was kidding, by the way. You prepared for that question, you set yourself up for success.
4.
This is the manager of Superstore. We met yesterday at the interview.
Oh, yes. Hello.
Hi. We would like to offer you the job of trainee manager.
That's wonderful.
We want you to start in the purchasing department.
Yes, of course.
Okay, now let's do this. This is the manager of, of Superstar. Or Superstore, not Superstar. We met yesterday at the interview. Okay? Oh yes, hello. Hi. We would like to offer you the job of trainee manager. Okay? That's wonderful. We want you to start in the purchasing department. So in the purchasing department. And finally, yes, obviously the word of course. Okay? Pretty simple stuff, you guys. Now, let's move on. What do we have here? Here we have make phrases using the verbs and nouns below. And let me actually open this so you guys can get a better view here. Okay? So here we have see, apply for, write, prepare, have, talk about, earn, and work. Okay? These are verbs, and here we have nouns, and let's try and make, some phrases. So obviously, what do we use with see? I can say, see a job advertisement, right? And then apply for, what do you apply for here from these nouns? That's correct. You apply for a job, right? And then we have write. What do you write when preparing for a job? That's correct. You write a resume. Prepare a presentation. You guys remember when we talked about preparing a presentation for your job interview? And then obviously have an interview. Talk about yourself. Earn a salary. And finally, work long hours. All these three are in the correct place. Okay? So as you can see, still these phrases are actually in correct order of getting a job most of the time. So see a job advertisement, apply for a job, write a resume, prepare a presentation, have an interview, talk about yourself, earn a salary, and finally work long hours. Okay? What else do we have? Here we have, look at the words in the table. Okay, so let's actually open this right here. Okay, complete the table with the missing words. Okay, so we have verb, noun as in a person, and finally an adjective, right? So we're going to be using kind of the same word but in different situations. For example, if it's a verb, noun as in a person, and if there's, room for adjective, we'll do that as well. Okay? So here we go. We have the noun application. What is the verb? I can say apply, right? Is that not a verb? I'm applying for something, so that's a verb. Apply. Noun becomes application. Noun, but as a person, becomes applicant, you guys. Okay? Applicant. And no adjective, right? What's the second word? Here we have noun, person, we have employer. So that means the verb will be employ, when you employ someone to work for you, right? So employ. Noun will be employment, right? Noun, employment. And I can also say here for noun, person, employer, and I can also say employee, right, you guys? And for adjective, I can probably say unemployed. So un, and here I can say employed. Okay? Here I have, for the noun, I have interview. So for the verb, believe it or not, I can also say interview. So both are correct. So interview as a verb or interview as a noun depends on how you use it in a sentence. Okay? And for noun as a person, I can say interviewer, right? The guy giving the interview. And I can same as employer and employee, interviewee. Okay? I don't know how I said that, but interviewee. Okay? Here we go. All right, you guys? And for adjectives, nothing. And here we have qualify. For noun, I can say qualification, right? You guys know that. So verb, qualify, noun, qualification. Okay? And then I don't have a noun, person, doesn't let me write it down. And here we have, for adjective, I can say unqualified, right? Unqualified, unemployed, right? And what do we have? We have trainer as a noun, person. So I can say verb. This one's really easy, you guys. You should be able to figure this out. So for verb, I can say train. For noun, I can say training, right? For noun, person, I can also say trainer and trainee again. Oh, trainee, right? And for adjective, I can say untrained. Or not here. I mean, it's correct. I just got to write in the other space. Untrained. Okay? So apply, application, applicant. employ, employment, employer slash employee, unemployed, interview, interview, interviewer, interviewee, qualify, qualification, unqualified, train, training, trainer slash trainee, untrained. Okay, simple stuff. Let's see if we have anything else. Okay, this one looks really interesting. Okay, so we have employers want people with life skills. What life skills do you have now? Okay, obviously, I mean, this question right here is just for you, so everybody's gonna have his own personal life skills. Not everyone has the same. Some people have less, some people have more. So just thing is, be honest with these things. No one's gonna mock you or anything, so just be honest. So I'll do it, so why not? So here we have, at university, I always get to lectures on time. And for me personally, I consider myself a punctual person, so punctuality is really important for me. So always being on time is something that I take very seriously. I think that, you know, it's really unprofessional and not good for you to not have, you know, it's not really a skill, but more of a personality trait. Like, just be on time, man. Saves everybody the hassle and the annoyance that comes with it, you know what I mean? So just always be on time. So I always get to lectures on time, yes. I always do my assignments on time, yes. I always look clean and tidy. This one's a no-brainer, absolutely. I work well in groups. I actually do not. I prefer to be sort of a lone wolf, if you know what that means. Like, I just kind of like to do my own thing, you know, have my own style. You know, sometimes, you know, one day I'll work for like, I don't know, 7 hours straight being the most productive person ever, and then the next day I'll do like 2 hours of work and be done, you know? So that doesn't really work with groups. So I work well on my own, yes. Okay? At home, I look after younger brothers or sisters. Yes, I do. I make up stories for my brothers or sisters. I do not spend that much time with them to be making up stories. I care for an older relative. I do not actually. I do not have any older relatives where I live. In your social life, I have a lot of friends. Not really. No. I don't think I have much of a social life anyway. So I have a lot of friends. I do not. I think that's a good thing though. Like, I have not too much friends or too many friends, but you know, the people that I have in my life are people that I can actually trust. You know what I mean? I am the captain of a team. I am no captain of a team whatsoever. Okay, so here are your life skills. You are punctual. Yes, I am. Organized. Yeah, I'd say I'm organized. Yeah, I'm organized. Smart. Yes. Cooperative. Independent. Yes. Kind. Not imaginative. I don't consider myself someone that can come up, you know, being that creative. You know what I mean? I kind of like, I can do a little bit of thinking and imagine, but not too much. So, no, not imaginative. Patient? No. I am not patient at all. No, I'm someone that can get mad very quickly if things go south, so gotta work on being patient. Friendly? Absolutely. And finally, confident. Yes, I am confident. Okay? So these were my answers. Please state your own answers and be honest. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Alright, you guys, now moving on to lesson 4 reading. Here we have exercise A. Look at the text opposite, read the heading and the introduction. So you guys know when we read a text, we usually start with the heading and introduction, and like we know, we pause for a second to think about what the text is going to be about. Okay? So let's have a read. What is the point of going on? Do you ever say to yourself, I don't want to study anymore. I'm going to leave school or university and get a job? In this article, we look at 2 good reasons to continue and get good qualifications. Okay? So based on what I just read, he's giving me a multiple choice question here. What is the article going to be about? Okay, so based on the heading and the introduction, okay, we have the reasons for getting a job, the reasons for leaving school, or the reasons for continuing with your education. So based on what I just read, I can confirm that the text is going to be talking about the reasons of continuing with your education. Okay, you guys? Now let's move on. What do we have here? Okay, so this looks like a a comprehension basically for this article right here. So what we're gonna do, so we make things easier, obviously I'd like for you to pause the video right now and actually have read by yourself and try solving exercise both B and C, right? And now I'll be reading all of this article right here, all of it, and then we're gonna be solving B and C together, right? So here we go. What is the point of going on? Do you ever say to yourself, I don't want to study anymore. I'm going to leave school or university and get a job. In this article, we look at 2 good reasons to continue and get good qualifications. In many countries, research shows that higher education is very important for your future. Firstly, you earn more money because you have good qualifications. People with no qualifications do not get good jobs because most managers want qualified people. Well-paid jobs are usually better jobs too, because they're more interesting. In addition, unqualified people have jobs, but they do not often have a career. Well-qualified people usually start a career after university. They start at one level and they get promoted every 3 to 4 years. You need to make a career plan. Ask yourself, what employment sector am I going to work in? Where would I like to be in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? Secondly, you may lose your job and you may become unemployed. However, well-qualified people are not that common, so a person with qualifications can usually get another job. A well-qualified person can continue his or her career with a different company. The message is clear. Go on to higher education, get good qualifications, and you will soon have enough money for clothes and CDs and an interesting, well-paid job. And don't forget to make a career plan. Alright, you guys, now let's take a look at the research here and these different charts. So let me explain how to read this chart right here. You guys are probably like, what the hell is this? Basically, a kid is drawing on this article. But no. You guys see these colors here. Here we have red, green, and purple. These resemble these weird lines in front of us right now, okay? So here we have pounds weekly. Pounds is the currency in the UK, you guys, okay? And here we have age. So we have from age 17 to around 34, okay? So we have people with a degree are in the red line, right? And people with secondary qualifications are in the green line. And finally, people with no qualifications are in the purple line, okay? So now let's actually close this for a second and go to exercise B. Study the figures opposite and complete the tables below. Okay. What does a person with a degree earn at 19? Okay. Now let's go back to our chart here. Okay, so we know that people with a degree are in the red line, right? So here we have 17, they make 0, and 19, they also make 0. You guys want to know why? Because common sense. Very few people actually have a degree at the age of 19. Hence why they make 0, right? You could have a side hustle, but then you're really not working with a degree, okay? So we'll say for number 1, 0. What does a person with a degree earn at 19? 0. Now, number 2, what does a person with a degree earn at 30 years old? Now, let's go back. Again, the red line. So go to 30 years old, so around here, and then go up, okay? Up, 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 up. What do we have here? This looks like it's around 560. So 560 weekly pounds, okay? So an average person with a degree earns, obviously 30 years old, earns around 560 pounds a week, okay? What about a person with secondary qualifications? Okay, so a person with second qualifications, let me go here, is we have the green line. So people in the green line are people that have only secondary qualifications. Let's see. At 17 years of age, they make around They make around 50 pounds a week, right? And at around 18, they make 100. At 19, they make, how much do they make? Let's actually check this out. At 19, they make around 200. So that's even more than people with a degree, right? So when you want to pursue a good degree, you're playing in it for the long run, right? And that's the good thing to do, right? Any short-term gains you make doesn't really matter, right? You're playing this for the long haul. As you can see in the chart, later in life, the guy or girl with a degree makes so much more money than people with secondary qualifications and no qualifications. Okay? So, to answer question number 3, what about a person with secondary qualifications? We'll just say, based on each age, it ranges from either 50 to 450 pounds weekly, depending on the age. Okay? Now, here we have number 4. What about a person with no qualifications whatsoever? Okay, now let's take a look. So a person with no qualifications, obviously the purple line here, starting from 17 years of age, actually makes more than a person with secondary qualifications at the age of both 17. Oh yeah, no, that's just 17. So 17. The average person with no qualifications makes around 150 weekly pounds, or pounds weekly, right? And at around 19, that number goes up to around 200, so 200 pounds weekly, and goes a little bit more, so at around 220 pounds weekly at the age of 21, right? And as you go, it kind of remains stable. It doesn't really go much higher than that, but at around, I'd say 31 is when they hit the 300 pounds weekly mark, right? And only 2 years later, they make around 350 pounds, okay, weekly. So, not the best, but hey, people gotta live somehow. Okay, now let's check this out. Number 5, what happens to a person with a degree at age 22? So let's go to 22 here. This looks like 22, okay? And a person, he said person with a degree, right? Yes. So a person with a degree at 22 makes at about, or starts making around 290 pounds a week. That's a person, or actually, no, I made a mistake. Yeah, something along 280, something of that sort, yeah. So around 280, 290 pounds a week, okay? That's a person with a degree at the age of 22, okay? Now, let me go here to this bar chart right here. Completely different chart, new style, or I should say similar style of viewing as well. So here we have degree, people with a degree, secondary qualifications, and people with no qualifications. And here we have percentages. But what are these percentages for? These are unemployment rates or unemployment percentages, okay? So based on people with a degree, what's their unemployment rate, okay? Because no matter what you have, there is always going to be people that are unemployed, okay? The job of a country is to decrease unemployment rate as much as possible. Okay, you guys? So here we have number 6. What percentage of graduates are unemployed? And obviously graduates means people with a degree. So let's take a look. Here we have this bar right here. So when it ends, I'm going to go down, go down, go down. And around 2.5% of graduates are unemployed, which is not bad at all. Okay, so the less of them, the better. So 2.5% of graduates are unemployed. Unemployed means to not have a job. Okay, you're unemployed. You're not employed. You're unemployed. You don't have a job. And then number 7, what about people with secondary qualifications? Okay, so the percentage of unemployment for secondary qualifications skyrockets to 6%. Okay, now that's a big difference. So people with secondary qualifications, or the unemployment rate for people with secondary qualifications goes up to 6%. Okay? And finally, we have number 8. What about people without qualifications? Here we go. People with no qualifications follow people with secondary qualifications, standing at 7% unemployment rate, which is quite high. Okay? So here you guys have it. I hope you're able to understand how the charts work and how you can read them. Okay? Now let's move on. Here we have exercise C. What are the reasons for going on to higher education? Okay, so this is a question that is easily answered through the text here. What do the figures show? And based on me personally, what I just saw, I saw that the figures and research shows that people that have degrees and continue studying and get good qualifications tend to live a better life financially and job stability as well, and are able to have a successful career. Okay, you guys? Now, what do we have? Read the text and check your answers. We just did that. What other reasons are in the text? Let's check. Here we have, you earn more money because you have good qualifications. We said that. Okay. What else? What else? Okay, well-paid jobs are usually better jobs too. Okay, because they're interesting. That's one more. Okay. Well-qualified people usually start a career after university, so that's right away. That's also a plus. Okay? Pretty simple stuff, you guys. Now, let's move on. What else do we have? Okay, look at this. Skills check, dealing with long sentences. Okay, so here we're going to be learning about breaking long sentences into sections, right? So here we have these words, and, or, but, because, so. Okay? These words often join two clauses. Okay? What do I mean by all this? Right? So let me give you an example and you'll understand. So if I say people with no qualifications do not get good jobs, and here we have a word that joins these two sentences, you guys, because most managers want qualified people, right? So these words join two sentences together, right? So this is the subject, people with no qualifications, verb, do not get, object, good jobs, and here we have the joining word, because, subject again, most managers, verb, want, object, qualified people. And just a quick tip, the subject of the second clause usually comes after the joining word. Okay, so here we have the subject right after the joining word. Okay, you guys? Now, look at the highlighted sentences in the text. Okay, so we have this highlighted text in yellow. What is the joining word in each sentence? Let's take a look. So, firstly, you earn more money because, joining word, because you have good qualifications. People with no qualifications do not get good jobs because, again, so joining word, most managers want qualified people. Okay, so the joining word here is because. Okay, now here we have, in addition, unqualified people have jobs, but, okay, the word but here is the joining word, but they do not often have a career. They start at one level, and so and is the joining word, and they get promoted every 3 or 4 years. Okay, here we have, secondly, you may lose your job, and, so and is the joining word as well, you may become unemployed. However, well-qualified people are not that common, so a person with qualifications can usually get another job quickly. Okay, you guys? Pretty easy stuff. Now, let's move on. What do we have? Here we have exercise E. Guess the meaning of these words or phrases from context. Okay? So, we already read the text, so I want you guys to just pause the video for a second, read the text or the article one more time, and I told you guys before, and even in the 9 to 7 English course, if you don't know, the meaning of a word, always look behind it and after it in the text. So I'm sure here we have reasons. What do reasons, the word reasons, mean? It means explanations. Okay, so explaining, give your reason, give your explanation, right? Here we have the word promoted. So let me actually close this for a second here. I'm going to give you an example, okay? You guys should be doing this, but I'll help you out. So where's that word? They start at one level and they get promoted every 3 or 4 years. So here we have the word promoted. What does promoted mean? So well-qualified people usually start a career after university. Simple enough. They start at one level, okay, so they're at one level in a company or wherever they work, and they get promoted every 3 to 4 years. Okay, so based on what I just understood from the words before and after the word promoted, I can understand that I'm somehow leveling up. Kind of similar to a video game, but this time we're talking about real life. So what does it mean to be promoted? It means to do a better and sometimes easier job, depending obviously on the job, not always, in your company or wherever you work. Okay, so promoted means probably getting a better pay, right? Doing an easier job, for example, basically doing a better job. Okay, so now you guys should be doing these on your own now. So try to go to the text and find the meaning. Okay, so now let me go. So reasons, we have, what was it? Reasons, explanations. Okay, promoted means get a better job. Okay, go on, continue. Go on. If I say to someone in an interview, if I say to him, go on, what does go on mean? It doesn't mean go on, it means continue, right? If you were speaking, I can say, oh, go on, I'm sorry. It means continue. My bad. Okay? And then we have well paid. Well paid means get good money from a job. So if I say I'm well paid, that means my job is, I'm making good money from my job. Well paid. Earn, what does earn mean? Earn means to make money or have a salary for your job, right? So I go to a job and I earn my money monthly or weekly. Okay? Here we have unemployed, and we talked about this. Employed means to have a job. You have a normal, stable job, right? Unemployed means without a job. You don't have a job anymore. You're unemployed. And finally, we have higher education is education after school. So pursuing higher education usually refers to continuing with your education after high school, right? So you're done with high school. Some people skip it and just go straight to university, right? Some people don't even have a high school diploma, believe it or not. So, hey, I'm not judging, by the way. So higher education usually means pursuing university, a bachelor's degree, and then master's, and potentially a PhD if you want. Okay? Pretty simple stuff, you guys. And yeah, that was it. I'll see you guys in writing. Alright, you guys, now let's move on to lesson 5, writing and grammar, final lesson. Let's hop right in. So here we have skills check 1. We'll start with that because we're going to apply these to exercise A. So we have something called doubled letters in English. So basically, in some English words, we have doubled consonants. And what are consonants? Consonants are letters that are not vowels. We talked about this before, right? So, for example, if I say apple, you guys, it looks like I'm saying, when I pronounce it, it looks like I'm saying, an apple with one P. But in reality, it has a double P, right? Double consonants. Yellow. When you pronounce yellow, it's one L. However, you'll realize that when writing it down, you have to use 2 L's. Same thing with coffee. We have coffee, right? We don't need double F and double E, but we're going to use both, right? That's how it's done. So there is no specific rule for these words, so you basically just got to memorize them, and it will come naturally over time. And as we said, the double consonant has the same exact sound as the single consonant. Apple, yellow, coffee, communicate, assistant, million. You get the idea. All right? So now let's open exercise A and find these. All right. So here we have write the words with the correct spelling. Okay. So these are the words without the double consonants, right? So only one consonant. We're going to have to add the other one. So what's number 1, you guys? That's correct. It's apply with a double P, right? What's number 2? That's correct. It's assignment, right? With a double S. Number 3, we have assistant with 3 S's actually. Oh, I forgot to write one down. So assistant. Okay, so apply, assignment, assistant. Excuse me. And then we have number 4, communicate. Okay, so communicate has a double M, you guys. Communicate. Okay, and then we have different with a double F. So different. And then we have million, the number million. So double L, million. And then we have offer, to offer someone something. So offer. And office, everybody knows what an office is. So office. And we have professional. Finally, professional has a double S, you guys. Okay? So apply, assignment, assistant, communicate, different, million, offer, office, and finally professional. Okay? Easy stuff. Let's move on. So here we have skills check 2 using a or an. We talked about this before so many times. So we have 3 main rules. We use a or an with nouns, so something like a job, an application, a video game, a playground. Okay? Now rule number 2, we can also use a or an in front of an adjective plus a noun phrase. So a little bit more specific. So for example, if I can say a good interview, an interesting job, an interesting game, a funny game. You guys get the idea, alright? Now, rule number 3 is what I really want to focus on. So before, we talked about how using a or an. So we used to say using an with vowels and using a with consonants. Now, check this out. Rule number 3, we use a if the next word begins with a consonant sound, you guys, right? And we use an if the next word begins with a vowel sound, right? So here he's talking specifically about the sound. So it might be a consonant, but I might be able to use an with a consonant just because of the sound. You guys know, like a word like, for example, not a word, a letter like U, for example, right? A U has 2 different pronunciation styles. I can say an umbrella, right? Or I can say university. You see the difference? That sound, okay? So that sound is called a vowel sound, and we use an with that, right? But when I say you, when I say you, that's a consonant sound. So I don't say an university. I say a university, okay? So careful with the sound, and you guys will get the hang of it. So we have examples: a useful job, an honest person, right? So I don't say an horse, right? An honest. You see that sound? And we use an with that. So an honest person. And if I say, for example, a horse, I'll use a, obviously. So here, let me actually open this for you guys right here. So we have write a or an in front of each noun or noun phrase. Okay, so now we have, you know, some nouns and noun phrases, and we're going to be using either a or an. So number 1 is job, obvious consonant sound, so a bank manager or a bank, a manager, okay, pretty simple stuff, dash advertisement, so that sound, so an, okay, email, so it has that it, so an email, office, office, so an office, okay, international, it has that it sound, so obviously an again, so an international bank, English company, again it, so an, okay, average salary, obviously an, one more time because European. Now check this out. There's an E, but we don't pronounce the E when saying European. We pronounce the U. So although there's a vowel here, we're gonna write a. So a European and not an European. Okay? You guys get the idea of how this works? Same thing here. So we have a U, which is a vowel, by the way, but the way the word is pronounced is how I'm gonna put a. So university. I don't say an university, I say a because of that U pronunciation, right? UN job, again, so a UN job. The word hour, okay? I don't say hour, right? I say hour, so an hour, right? If it was a hen, for example, I would say a hen and not an hen. So depending on the pronunciation. And finally, Xbox. This one's simple. An Xbox, believe it or not. So although here we have a consonant, we're going to use an, and just because of the XX, that it, we still have that it sound, okay, just in the form of X. Okay, so an Xbox. Now let's move on, you guys. What do we have here? Here we have skills check 3, statement plus example. So in most essays and business letters, when writing obviously business letters, we often make a statement, then give an example. The example is obviously important because it helps people or the person reading the essay to understand or simply believe the statement, right? So let me give you an example here. Here we have, I'm a very confident person, and example, I am the captain of my local football team. Because obviously being confident means, or being a captain means you have good leadership skills. Okay, so that's a statement and an example shortly after. So whenever you're making a statement, you guys, always try to kind of give an example that resembles that statement, right? So here we have another example. I am an organized person. I always do my assignments on time. One that's really similar to this, I can say, I am a punctual person. I always arrive on time. That also makes total sense. Okay? Pretty simple stuff. Let's move on. So, what do we have here? Here we have exercise D. Look at table 1. Here we have, when do we use this pattern? Okay, so here we have this pattern right here. So subject, verb 1, verb 2, and other. So I am going to talk about Africa today. He is going to study in the USA next year. She is going to do mathematics. Alright, so he is going to do mathematics, for example. We are going to learn to find areas this lesson. They are going to leave school in July. Okay, let me actually open this up. Alright, so here we have, so we just did that table. So when do we use this pattern? So this kind of pattern that we use for sentences, what do we use it for, you guys? That's correct. We use it to introduce a lecture, because look at how I'm saying it. I'm going to talk about Africa today. That's how a lecturer usually starts his introduction. He is going to do mathematics. We are going to leave school in July, right? Introduction. And what else? Obviously, not all of what I just said was an introduction. Some of them were about future plans, right? So it's actually, I can use both, by the way, so both are correct. So to introduce a lecture and to talk about future plans, both are correct, right? So if I say they are going to leave school in July, I'm talking about a future plan here. It's not present, I haven't done it yet, and it's not in the past, but it is a future plan. And to also introduce a lecture. I am going to talk about Africa today. Okay? So, pretty simple stuff, you guys. Now, let's move on. What do we have? Here we have exercise E. Look at table 2 and compare it with table 1. Okay, so here we have questions that start with verb to be, aka known as, or otherwise known as yes or no questions. So, are you going to talk about Mexico today? Is he going to do geography at university? is she going to study in Canada next year, right? So let me actually, here we have exercise E. How do we make yes or no questions with this pattern? So it's actually really simple. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be switching it up. So instead of the subject, we're going to switch the position of the subject, right? So instead of the subject being the first in the sentence that we start, we don't start with the subject. That's what I'm trying to say. We start with a verb. So in this case, verb to be. Okay? So I can say, instead of saying, I am going to talk about Africa today, if I want to make it a question, are you going to talk about Africa today? Right? So what else do we have? How do we make answers guess? It's literally in the in the first one here. So it's a yes or no question. So how do we make answers guess? So if someone asks me, are you going to talk about Mexico today? I can say, yes, I am, or yes, I will. All right, so yes, I will. No, I will not, right? Is he going to study in Canada next year? Yes, he is. Or no, he isn't. Okay? Are we going to learn how to write letters in this lesson? No, we're not. Or yes, we are. Okay? This is how you make answers. Now, look what we have. We have exercise F. Look at table 3 compared with table 2. So complete each question. Now let me actually open this so you guys can get a better view. So here we have table 2, yes or no questions, obviously, and then we have table 3, questions that have the question words. So what are question words? We have when, how, why, where, what. All of these are question words that we use in the beginning of a question. So here we have, are you going to talk about dash? If I use what here, right? What are you going to talk about? Now that's a question word that's used for a question, okay? And then we have, is he going to study next year? I can say where. Where is he going to study next year? Dash, is she going to start school? I can say when. When is she going to start school? And after that we have, are we going to get to college? How? How are we going to get to college? Okay? And then we have dash, are they to leave next year? Or are they going to leave next year? I can probably say why. So why are they going to leave school? And you guys gotta notice that with question word questions and yes or no questions, we use the same style. So we have a verb and a subject and another verb and another verb, and then we have other, right? But the only difference is the question word. That's literally the only difference. So with the addition of a question word, you change the whole thing. All right? Pretty simple stuff. Now let's move on. What do we have here? Here we have exercise G. Look at table 4. Make 2 sentences from the table with the same meaning. Okay. Make 2 sentences from the table with the same meaning. Okay, so I want to work in a hotel. All right, and I would like to work in a hotel. I can probably say I'll probably say something along the lines of he wants to work in a restaurant, right? I would like to work in a school. Both of these are correct and have the same meaning. Write a yes or no question for each kind of sentence. Okay. So, I want to work in a hotel. I can probably say, do you want to work in a hotel? That can make sense, right? And a yes or no question would probably be, would you like to work in a hotel? Right? And we actually have them right here as well on table 5. So, do you want to work in a hotel? And would you like to work in a hotel? So, how can you answer each question? So, imagine someone asking you, do you want to work in a hotel? If I'm gonna answer, I'll probably say, no, I don't. Right? So do you want to work in a hotel? No, I don't. Or no, I do not. Or no, I do not want to work in a hotel. You can continue. Would you like to work in a hotel? No. Right? I can say no, or I can say, would you? No, I wouldn't. Would you like to work in a hotel? No, I wouldn't. Right? So here we have, make two sentences with the subject she. So make two sentences with the subject she. We can probably say, she wants to study in the US, right? She would like to become a doctor. Okay? Make two questions with the subject he. Can probably say, does he play sports? Would he like some food? Right? So does he play sports, and would he like some food? Okay? Now let's move on to the next page. Alright, you guys, now let's move on here. So exercise A, read the sentences below. They all come from an application letter. Use a clause from the box to complete each sentence. And let's actually hop into the skills check first. Here we have using because and so. Okay, so these two words are similar, by the way, and they're both joining words. But take notice here about how we change up the information when using both. So for example, I can say, I want to be a teacher because I like children. Or I want to be a chef because I like food. Okay? Makes sense? Pretty simple stuff. So statement, joining word, and reason. Now notice how I'm going to switch it up when using the word so. So I'm kind of using the opposite style. So I like children, so I want to be a teacher. I like cooking, so I want to be a chef, right? I like sports, so I want to be a personal trainer. Okay? Just simple style. No matter, it just depends on when you use it and how you use it. You know what I mean? So here we have, let me actually open exercise A here. Here we have, I saw your advertisement for a trainee manager in the Daily News this morning. Okay, so this is an application letter, and we're going to have to choose and complete these sentences. Okay? So number 1, I'm writing to you because probably I would like to apply for the job. Okay? So I'm writing to you because I would like to apply for the job. My name is Francisa Mori. I'm 21 and I'm studying at Milton University, right? Talking a little bit about herself. What is she doing? I'm doing a degree in psychology. I'm going to finish my course in 2 weeks, and probably something I want to start work immediately. And the reason I didn't choose I want a job in the city, you'll get why in a second. So 4, I'm going to stay in Milton, so I want a job in the city. Okay? And that is why this one fits better with number 4. I'm going to stay in Milton, so I want a job in the city. Number 5, I would like to work in the retail industry because I love working in shops, right? Number 6, during my degree course, I worked as a shop assistant at the weekends, so I understand retail work. Okay, you guys? Pretty simple stuff. Let's move on. What do we have here? Here we have, read the sentences below. They come from the same application letter. Okay, so now we're still in the same application letter, you guys. Make each statement with an example. Okay, let's actually open this here. Here we have, I'm never late for lectures or meetings. At home, I often look after my little brother. He is 4. I write stories and I paint pictures. I often do the shopping for my family and I cook many meals. I do not ask for help on assignments. I do everything myself. I go to many clubs at university. Okay, so these are basically examples for each statement here. Okay, so for example, here we have number 1, I'm a punctual person. And that probably simply means I'm never late for lectures or meetings, right? It just makes sense. Being punctual means never late, always on time. 2, I love meeting people. So, love meeting people, that probably means I go to many clubs at university, right? You have a social life. You go outside and try and meet people, new people. Number 3, I am patient. I'm patient probably. Yeah, at home I often look after my little brother. He is 4. I mean, have you tried being patient with a 4-year-old? It's insane. I am independent. Okay. That probably means I do not ask for help on assignments. I do everything myself. And I'm actually just going to go off topic for a second here. That independent, you guys, I mean, it's obviously a good trait, but for me personally, I think that getting opinions from other people is also a good way to indicate progress, as long as you do not let it cloud your judgment, right? So taking criticism and opinions from other people is good, but please work on yourself and do not let it ever cloud your judgment, okay? Here we have, I am an organized person. That is probably, I often do the shopping for my family and I cook many meals. Yeah, you're probably an organized person if you do that. And finally, we have number 6, I am an imaginative person. And yeah, I write stories and I paint pictures. Okay? Pretty simple stuff, you guys. Examples for our statements. Now, let's move on. What do we have here? Here we have, how can you start and end a business letter? Choose one starting phrase and one ending phrase. So he wants one only. So, no, give me a second here. What do we have? We have good morning. Okay. Hello, how are you? Hi, sir. Dear Mr. or Mrs. or dear sir or madam. So out of all of these, I think the best one would probably be dear sir or madam. Just because, you're talking to someone that you don't know, so you're trying to be as formal as possible. So you can't just start with hello, how are you? You're not talking to your friend. You're talking to someone that you've never talked to before. Okay? And for ending the business letter, we have best wishes, goodbye, yours faithfully, lots of love, see you later, and yours. I think the best one would probably be yours faithfully, and right after that, just write your signature down. That would be good. Yeah, because you can't just say lots of love. You've never met the guy before. See you later. Imagine saying see you later to your future boss that you don't even know if you're going to land the job or not. Okay? So, starting, it's best to say dear sir or madam, and ending with yours faithfully plus your signature. Okay? Now, let's move on. What do we have here? Okay. Read the sentences and circle the correct word or phrase in each case. Okay. So here we have, I would like or liking a well-paid job. I would like a well-paid job. I would like to work inside. I don't want to work inside. I already said don't, so I can say would like after that. I don't would like to work inside is wrong, so I don't want to work inside. He would like to leave school, or he would, never say woulds, so he would like to leave school. Okay? Number 4, she wants work for the government, or to work for the government. Okay? This is a form of verb after want. So she wants to work after the government, or to work for the government, not after the government. 5, do you would like to go on to college or want to go on to college? So obviously, do you want to go on to college? And then we have number 6, I'm going finish my course in July. I'm going to finish my course in July. 7, I want to work for the government because or so. You remember? So using this style, we said we'll be using because. I want to work for the government because, and the reason I want to help my country. So if I use the opposite way, if I say I want to help my country, so I want to work for the government, that would be correct. By using this form, we're going to use because. And finally, we have number 8. What are you going to do after university? So obviously are talking to someone, so what are you going to do after university? Alright, you guys, now let's move on. what do we have here? Okay, so this one's really simple. You guys, or not really simple, you guys should be doing this on your own because this is a whole application letter. So look, we have some pictures here to help you guys out. It says you want to apply for a job. So consider yourself, think of yourself as someone that just finished college and now you're trying to look for a job to support yourself financially. So you're going to have to write an application letter, right? So start with making some notes, you guys, right? So ask yourself these questions. Where did I see the advertisement? What is the job exactly? What's your name? What's your age? What is your present situation? Are you working? Have you been working before? Things of that nature. Are you married? Are you alone? Okay. What are you studying, if you're still studying? When can you start the job? Okay. Why do you want this job? Which I think is probably the lamest question that anyone can ask, because come on, everybody wants a job for obvious reasons. Why are you good for this job? And I think that this is one of these questions that you're gonna have to really focus your answer and try your best to perfect an answer for this specific question. So spend a little bit more time on it. Why are you good for this job? Like, basically what anyone's trying to say to you is, how can I know like you're not replaceable? Like, how do I know that you're the one that I should choose? And that's when you should try and shine and get a great answer that impresses the interviewer or whoever's talking to you. Okay? Making some notes with these questions, and then start with the help of your teacher. Write a letter and show it to your friends, or even read it out loud to your friends later on. Okay, you guys? Thank you for this unit, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a good one. Peace.